So this week you're learning about how to do customer research, and then you'll be creating customer profiles for your assignment. So in this video we'll cover how to identify your customer segments, research tools you can use, and then how to actually go about creating customer profiles that represent the customer segments that you've identified. So the first thing is to start brainstorming and to think about, well, who exactly are your customers? Who would be most likely to want to purchase your product or service? Be careful not to be too general. So your customers are not anyone on the internet, or all women, or all young people, or any business could use your product or service. It's going to be very difficult for you to focus your marketing and your sales efforts if you're too general when selecting your customer segments. So instead, be very specific. For example, your customer segment could be male business professionals who are between the ages of 35 and 55 who live in big cities, or mothers between the ages of 25 and 45 with young children, or college students who spend a lot of time playing video games. Or maybe you're going after small retail businesses who don't currently have an e-commerce website. So you can see by being very specific, you now can get an idea of how you would message to them, what kind of marketing messages would you use, and where would you go about putting those messages, what types of websites would these people frequent most often. So when thinking about your customer segments, think about their demographics, so their ages, their gender, their education and income levels, what type of occupation are they in, their family life, are they married or are they single, do they have children or not, and their geographic location, which could be important depending on the type of business you have. Also think about your customers' buying habits. So what is their role? Are they buying for themselves? Would they be buying for their children or their spouse or a family member? Would they be buying on behalf of their own business? Or are they an employee of a business and maybe would have to go through several different people to get approved before buying your product or service? So it's important to understand the role. Also the frequency, how often would they be buying your product or service? If it's something like life insurance, people don't buy that generally very often, so your sales cycle and your messaging is going to be very different from something like a digital download, which people may buy on a daily or weekly basis. Think about also for your particular customer segments, how tech savvy are they? Are they online a lot? Do they use their mobile phones a lot? Or do they generally do things offline, particularly say if they're an older age range? Also think about how much they get recommendations from their family, friends, and colleagues, especially on social media sites, and then how much that they look for social proof regarding the type of product or service that you sell. Then also consider your customer psychographics. So these are things like their attitudes and values, their personality, their lifestyle, their interests, and their hobbies. So if you're selling something that's geared to people who are on the go a lot, who say like to be fit and healthy, then that would be an important part of their psychographics. So along with that, you want to think about what type of persona types your customers have. So there's 4 different types. The first type is competitive. So these people tend to be very fast thinking and logic oriented. So when you're messaging to them, say on your website, your landing pages, your email marketing, your social media marketing, these people want quick access to information. You want to appeal to their competitive nature. So other people or other companies are using your product or service, so they're going to want to too, so that they can stay ahead of the game. They also want to be reaffirmed that they are in the know and that they're current with whatever it is, whatever trend is out there, whatever product or service that you're selling. The other type of persona type are spontaneous people. These people are also fast thinking, but they tend to be driven more by emotion than by logic. So they also are going to want quick access to information because they're fast thinking. But for them, they're going to want to see success stories and videos that showcase customers of yours. They're going to want a lot of visuals, so graphics and images that lay things out for them very clearly, and reassurance that your product or service is easy to use, is convenient, saves time and money, things like that. The third type of persona is methodical. So these people tend to be slower in their thinking process and in their decision making, and they're logic oriented. So for them, on your web pages, your landing pages, you're going to want a lot of detailed information for them. They want product specifications and video demos and presentations and testimonials from customers. They want reassurance that there's going to be support or additional information available to them depending on the type of product or service that you sell. Finally, there are humanistic persona types. So these people are also slow thinking, like methodical personas, but they tend to be influenced more by emotion. So for them, you also want a lot of detailed information in your messaging. And like the spontaneous people, you're going to want a lot of images and videos that show people in them. So customers of yours or people who would use your product or service. And again, reassurance that you will be there to help them. So for the most part, you can probably identify for yourself which of these persona types that you tend to be. And we're not always the same persona type all the time or for every type of product that we buy. So for example, if we're going to go buy a new car, we're probably going to be more methodical. We're going to take longer to make that decision and do more research than say if we're buying an ebook because the price is so different. So just think about your product or service, the price point, how much information or research someone would do before buying it, and then think about the types of customers you would most likely be getting. So once you brainstorm the types of customers that you could have, you're going to want to identify customer segments. So the way to do that is first, if you have an existing business already, think about your current customers. So where did they fall with their ages and their genders and their education levels and geographic locations and their psychographics and their buying habits? So identify your current customers. If you don't have any customers currently, if this is a new business, then take a look at your competitors and the types of customers that they have. Doesn't mean necessarily that you want to go after the same exact types of customers that your competitors do, but it will give you an idea of where to start. And then of course, definitely whether you have an existing business or this is a brand new one, think about who can benefit the most from your product or service. So what problems are you solving with your product or service, and who would be most likely to have those problems? So if you have a current business, some of the research tools that you can use survey websites like SurveyMonkey to actually survey your current customers. So this is a great way to find out some information from them. So perhaps you could ask them, well, what made them buy your product or service? How often do they buy products like what you sell? What is their age? What is their gender? You can even make it anonymous so they feel more likely to answer some of those more personal questions, because you may not necessarily need to know who the customer is. You just want to collect the data as a whole. If you don't have any current customers or you don't feel that you can ask them a survey, like through SurveyMonkey, what you can do is add a little pop-up questionnaire on your website if you have a website currently, or as you get started, you can add this, where you can ask questions of people who are visiting your website. So these are anonymous because you don't know who's visiting your website unless you ask them for their name and information, which you probably don't want because then you won't get as many responses. So these are anonymous. You don't really know if they're your target customers or not because you don't know who they are coming to your website, but it could give you some really useful information. So in this example, they're asking, how did you hear about us? But you could ask them things like, is this the first time coming to the site? Did you find what you were looking for? How often do you buy this product that we sell? Things like that. Again, if you already have an existing business, or even if you're starting out, you can use a site like askyourusers.com to get in-depth feedback. So this is where if you wanted someone to say do a screencast and go through your website and try to find information or try to go through a checkout process, you can, through this company, find people in your target customer segment, so that age range, education level, and so on, and then these people will go through and do a task that you've assigned to them. So it's much more in-depth feedback than just a survey. Now you can also use things like the Google Keyword Planner and Google AdWords, which we took a look at last week, where you can identify niches. So this is a great way to brainstorm customer segments for your product or service. You can also create landing pages. So even if your website is not ready to go live yet, maybe you haven't set up your e-commerce system yet, or you don't have enough content for the site to go live, you can just set up a simple landing page with even with an opt-in subscription form, and you can push this out into social media and on different websites. Make sure to add Google Analytics to the page so you can see, well, where are people coming from who are coming to my landing page? Am I mostly getting people from my tweets or from my Facebook post or from LinkedIn post or whatever it happens to be? So that can give you an idea of at least where people are coming from. Also, once you start doing your landing pages and you have your website up, you're definitely going to want to do some A/B testing. And we'll talk about this more next week, both landing pages and A/B testing. But I wanted to throw it out there now as tools that you can use for customer research to see what people are responding to. So now let's take a look at some customer segments and then customer profiles. So I'm using as my sample business for this class this idea that I have for a mobile app that would have things like video workouts that people can do in their hotel rooms when they're traveling, list of airports and hotels that have healthy eating options, running routes in certain cities, hotels that have good fitness centers, things like that. So that's the content that I'm thinking of including in this mobile app. And I had decided that I'm going to focus on women who travel. And so I have broken those down into 4 different customer segments. So I have women who travel for business, women who travel for leisure, women who travel with their children, and women who have busy schedules, but maybe not necessarily traveling, because maybe they would be interested in the videos that they can just do at home without any equipment or anything that they would have to have with them. So those are the 4 kind of buckets of customer segments that I've identified for my product. And so for your assignment this week, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to identify at least 4 customer segments for your product as well. And then once you've identified these 4 buckets, you're going to create a customer profile that represents each of those customer segments that you've identified. So let's take a look at how to do that. So here's my first customer profile. So I've given her the name Kim Harris. That's a fictitious name, so that's what you're going to do. You're just going to make up a name. So this woman, Kim Harris, represents my first customer segment, which is women who travel professionally. So I've given her some characteristics. So she's in her mid-20s, she's single, no children, she has a college degree, she's an assistant manager, and she travels 2 to 3 times per month for business, so fairly regularly. She makes purchasing decisions fairly quickly, and she uses her mobile phone quite often for texting, talking, and apps. She likes to save time by doing quick, intense workouts. She has a competitive personality. She gets recommendation from friends and others on social networks. So for the content and messaging that I would use for her is customer testimonials and social proof. I would appeal to her competitive nature, make sure that she stays fit while she's traveling. And my conversion goal for her, what I want her to do when she comes to my website, is I want her to actually purchase the premium mobile app. So I've decided I'm going to have a free version of the app that will probably be ad supported and not have as many features. Then the premium app will have no ads and will have additional features that the free version does not. So that's my goal, because she is a competitive persona and she makes purchasing decisions quickly. I'm confident that I can get her to purchase the premium mobile app when she gets the information about it. So as you see, this is how you would create a customer profile that acts as a stand-in for the larger customer segment. So all of this information I have made up, so it's fictitious information, but it's based on the research that I have done using the tools that I mentioned previously. So here's my next one. So this is for my customer segment of women who travel with their children. So this is Susie Thornton. She's in her early 40s. Her children are in grade school. She's well educated, upper middle class income. Her buying habits are that she does quite a bit of research before making purchasing decisions. She also uses her mobile phone often, which is great. She has an active, healthy lifestyle. She's very family oriented and she enjoys doing activities together. So my messaging for her would be really emphasis on family health and fun while they're traveling. So healthy eating options, parks and recreation that they can do in the cities that they're visiting. My conversion goal for her, because she tends to do more research, so she's probably more of a methodical or humanistic persona, I'm going to have her sign up for my email newsletter so I can get her contact information and start that relationship, and also encourage her to download the free mobile app. So I'm not going to push her to buy the premium app the first time that she comes to my website or to my landing page. So that because I may turn her off too quickly. So those are my conversion goals for her. So again, this is the second customer profile for one of my other customer segments. So for your assignment this week, you'll identify 4 customer segments, those larger buckets, and then you're going to create a customer profile like you see here, one for each of those customer segments. And again, fictitious information that you make up based on the research that you've done. And just find a picture from a stock photo site that represents the person for that profile. So here's the template that you see here, and I will also provide this for you in a PowerPoint file that you can use, or you can create your own as well. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks. I look forward to seeing your assignments.